ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. ASAP, ASAP, ASAP.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of hashtag HuddleUP, the podcast, guys. Episode 3. Here we are. Guys, I want to thank you for all your love and support that you gave us through the first 2 videos. First video blew up, got some nice views, some nice feedback. Second video was even better. You guys continue to pour into the comments and just show us so much love, so we really, really appreciate it. Guys, we got a brand new great show for you today on submission, but from a man's perspective, okay? So we're going to twist it up a little bit, twist up what you think about submission. So guys, just want to thank you for just being here one more time. I want to introduce my first guy, my man to my left.
Terry Mana, thank you guys. Love and support is amazing. We appreciate you. Keep going. We're in this war. We're in this fight. We're in this battle together.
Y'all doing, man? How y'all doing? Thank y'all for watching. Truly appreciate y'all clicking on the video, supporting us, man. It truly means a lot to all 4 of us that you guys give us a chance to just speak into your lives and try to be, just a help. And hopefully we got some. Ain't no hopefully, we got something great for y'all today.
Facts. Christopher King, Crisis King 34. Just wanted to say thank y'all for tuning in, checking us out. We're gonna bless you today. Stay tuned. We got some great things coming for you, and huddle up.
Guys, I'm Byron Johnson, B Johnson Official on Instagram. So guys, just thank you so much. We all appreciate it. Like we said, don't forget to huddle up after the show. But guys, got a great show for you today on submission. So before we start off, I want my main man right here, the quarterback, all right, to explain to me, Daryl, what is submission exactly?
I mean, to me, I can just, explain in my own words. To me, I feel like submission really just means to serve, man. Because I was watching sermon, I was watching Michael Todd the other day, man, and he explained it in his sermon like submission means submission. Me personally, my feelings are sub to whatever the mission is that the Lord brings to me, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, I'm at home. This is me practice. Me and my wife, I'm at home. My wife asked me to take the trash out. I might not feel like taking the trash out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you gotta serve, man. So my wife asked me to do it. I gotta put my feelings below whatever the mission is, and that's just what I feel like it is. What about y'all? What y'all think?
Me personally, I think submission is a form of dying to yourself. Literally, your feelings, how you may feel, your pride, your insecurities, whatever, and you're choosing to die to that. And Michael Todd summed it up perfectly. You're being sub to the mission. So the mission of God is to do what? You becoming the man that He's designed you to be. And with that, in that process of becoming that man, you're going to have to die to yourself. You're going to have to die to your pride, your insecurities, your flesh, your feelings, like a lot of things that you may feel like wanting to do, you're going to have to die to those things, you know what I mean, in order to submit for a greater cause and for a greater good. And you have to apply that to not only in like your business career, but like you said, through your marriage, through relationships, through your friendships. You got to learn. Every man is going to have to learn how to essentially die to themselves and submit.
All right, I like that.
Man, submission, I think, is you making a commitment to try and go to the next level. When you don't submit, it's kind of like you think that you already have everything in your corner. You think you have everything that you could possibly have. When you submit, you're seeking more strength because you realize that you can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like when you submit and you make anything, first of all, I think the best practice and the best way to start is to submit to God.
Right.
And then you will see that benefit from God personally, and this is what I'm going through right now as we speak.
Right.
Because it's tough, you coming from a spot where you think like, man, I done did everything, but hey, you get in the world, it's like, man, there's a lot that I still need to grow and develop with.
Right.
So submitting might be my only choice at this point.
Right.
And I feel like the Lord, He's the Lord.
Yeah.
He gonna make you submit
For sure.
at one time
For sure.
or another. So that's what I really think submitting is. What about you, B. Johnson?
Submission, man, I would say, just how y'all said, you're subbing under the mission. I think of the word mission, and you're getting under it, and you're pushing the mission up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think that, the mission is for all of us to, grow in Christ, grow as men, grow as women to our highest self, and show as many people to Christ as we can. So we get under that mission and we push that mission up. It's not about us. You know what I mean? And so, like T said, you're going to learn to submit to God. If you want to become a great man, you got to submit to, authority in some senses. You have to learn how to submit to your wife. Even growing up, you have to submit to your parents. It's something that, kids, they talk about in the Bible, honor your mother and father. Like, that's a form of submission. You have to learn. I think anybody that really, truly has been great and has grown as a leader and is actually a true leader was a great follower at some point. You know what I mean? I take, for instance, in high school and college, I got an opportunity to be a captain on a team. But for 2 or 3 years, I was following other people. You know what I mean? I was following the other leaders that we had, and on championship teams, I had to learn, okay, what do great leaders do? What do great coaches do? What are the mistakes that they made that when I get in leadership, I can make it even better and, try to bring this to another level. So for me, leadership and submitting is just learning about following and, really just having the mindset that, okay, this isn't about just me. It's not, if you're by ourselves, if we're not in a relationship or anything like that, we don't really have to care about anybody else. It's just about us. But when you're talking, the unit of a team or just us in this example, we have to submit to each other in some ways. You know what I mean? There's some things that, we may not see eye to eye on, and we have to submit for the mission of the group. You know what I mean? So submission is just simply about just, getting under something and making it about the team or the group or the relationship or, the family rather than just about yourself. So submission is something that I think that everybody has a chance to grow in and something that everybody should embrace, that. So, so we're going to start it off with our very first actual question. And the first question that I have is, why is submission looked at as a weak or a bad action? And whoever wants to take this first, let me know. Why is submission looked at as a weak or a bad action?
I mean, it kind of goes off of. So we was talking, okay, pre-camera, we was talking, right? And he was like, us as men, because we can only see it from that way. Us as men, we always used to be in the leader. We always looked at to be. We always are comfortable with people saying we're in a dominant position. So when you think of submission as a man, you think of what? So you're telling me I gotta listen to this person or that person, or I gotta listen to some people, be like, I listen to a God that I don't even know personally, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then also, man, it's hard, bro. It's hard to submit. It really is. And it takes strength, man. People look at it as a weakness, but honestly, it shows strength because anybody could act like, they just that person, that guy. Mm-hmm. But if you can really, die to yourself, as Chris was saying, and put others in front of yourself, I feel like that's a form of strength of a weakness. That's
great.
That's great, though. Whenever we make a mistake as humans, as men, as anybody, the first thing we holler is, we not perfect. Mm-hmm. So we not perfect. Submitting should be viewed as a strength. Right. Because if you submit, that means you're acknowledging that you're not perfect, and you just go attack it from.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. I like that.
You go attack it from the, like, okay, I know I need to get better. And that's where I'm at right now. All of us are at that right now. Right. I know I need to get better, so I need to submit to the Lord. I know I need to get better at my job, so I'm going to submit to authority to be able to learn. Right. And the moment that we're not submitting, that means we're acting like we're perfect. If we're acting like we're perfect, that means we're not true leaders because people can't follow acting. Absolutely. Right. People could follow the submission, though. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of times in this generation where we're exposed to a lot of people's inner lives, a lot of people think there's a lot of acting going on. But true success, when people reach success, that probably means they submitted. Absolutely. That probably means they submitted. And if you can follow that trend on how to submit, which is like I said, I don't have all the answers figured out. So I'm gonna make sure I continue to mention that this is a process that I'm trying to figure out as well. But that submitting, I think it can open up more doors than you acting like you got it all figured out. Yep.
So Chris, why is submission looked at as a weak or a bad action to you?
So I think it's it's a product of society. You know, nowadays, especially in this Americanized, this American dream, you know, we're taught and we're conditioned that, you know, you have to be independent, you know, about everything. You got to do it on your own. You got to grind it out. You got to lead. You got to stand on your own 2 feet. And where we do that so much that it almost gives the bad connotation of submitting to authority, your wives or people or anything. You know what I mean? It puts so much of a bad connotation because we never want to be in the position of, oh, I have to depend on somebody else for their guidance, for their leadership, for their advice. For some reason, we never, especially in America, we never want to, you know, submit ourselves to that, you know, that theory. We never want to. And it seemed, especially, you know, and, you know, obviously men view it as a bad thing, but even women, like, especially now in today's society, view submission as a bad thing. I mean, I know, but I've heard, you know, multiple women be like, oh, I ain't never going to submit, or I ain't never going to do this. And men say the exact same thing. So I think it's a product of just the way society has conditioned us to a certain extent of always making us believe that we have to be independent. We have to know everything. We got to be perfect. We can't make mistakes. We can't lean on nobody. We can't lean on our brother for help. We just got to know how it is. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, causes us to, you know, look at submission as a bad thing. But like y'all said, man, submission it shows strength. It shows power. It shows the ability to serve. And if Jesus can submit,
Right.
ain't nobody else above being, you know, to be submitted under. You know what I mean? So that's, you know, we supposed to be following Jesus Christ, and He submitted. Hey, it's right there. What makes you any better? You know what I mean?
I think not wanting to submit is a form of pride. I mean, it's, you even talk about, like you said, in a relationship, you know, you can't have the husband or the wife cannot feel like neither one of them, because you have to submit to each other in multiple ways. You know what I mean? But it's so many examples these days of, like you said, that's a great example. You know, be a boss, be independent, stand on your own too. But I mean, think about it like this: you go to school, you're in law school, great example. You weren't the teacher on the first day, right? Now, eventually, you know, one day you get your JD and do whatever you got to do. Yeah. One day you could be the teacher, right? But at one point you were what? You were the student. You know what I mean? So you had to follow somebody else's example.
Grasshopper.
Exactly. You had to, you know what I'm saying? Like Karate Kid, like you had to follow somebody else's example in order for you to get to a certain position. And I think people, you know, we like to skip process. You know what I mean? And I know that's a curse word, process. You know what I mean? But seriously though, man, like it's. Think about it like, you know, you're getting molded. Pottery is a great example, you know, or diamond. You know, you have to go through that pressure in order for you to come out shining and do what you got to do. But you got to go through that pressure, you know, in order for your family or your team or whatever to be the best. You know, you have to work, you have to grind, you have to submit to one another, you have to be willing to grow. And so it's looked at as a bad or weak action because we have so much pride and nobody really wants to be under anybody. But guess what? There's a time and place where everybody has to be a follower, especially if you're called to lead at some point. Mm-hmm. Being a leader is not just like I was saying about the car. You know, the car gets all the glory. You know, when you see a Bugatti or a Lamborghini or something like that, that gets all the glory. The body gets all the glory. You take the engine out, the body can't do nothing. Right. You feel me? The engine is truly what is the true leader in that case. But the engine, you know, it doesn't have pride. You know, it submits to the body. The body is the one, the Aston Martin parts that you see, which is the outside, is what gets all the glory. But truly and truly, the engine is the heart. You know what I mean? And so for us as men, you know, I think it's so important for us to be willing to be that engine, not worry about being seen all the time or being, you know, flow shoulder, you know, this is what I got, this is my family. No, like, you want to be that person that digs under and pushes everything else up. Because to me, honestly, dude, you're only a great leader if you make others around you better. That's the way I look at anything, in sports and life and whatever. Like, you're only great if you can actually make the people around you better. You know what I mean? That's the way I've always looked at leadership. So when you talk about submission, a great leader has to be the first one in, last one up. You have to have that mentality. If you don't have it, I don't think that your team or family or anything is as successful as you really want it to be. You know what I mean?
I think submitting also, to your point, was a beautiful point. about the car, about the sports, about all that.
Appreciate
And if
that.
you think about it, man, when you submit, you get to see what it takes if you are allowed to become great, if you're allowed to be a boss, if you're allowed to be a head coach, if you're allowed to be the best player in the world. You've seen what it took to get there.
All right.
So then you were qualified to teach. So by submitting, I think the words, how you act, and your persona is going to be so different. It's going to be set apart from anybody that's not submitted that's going to stand out. You know what I mean? So with that being said, if we talk about, oh, you want to be a boss, oh, you want to be a millionaire, it don't matter what it is, somebody always have to submit to something to get the result that they want.
And I mean, that's just life. I mean, just look at school. You start high school as a what? As a freshman. You know what I mean?
First year.
And then you become a senior and you're leading.
Right.
And then you go back to doing what if you go to college?
Going back
Oh,
again.
being a freshman. You know what I mean?
And that boils down to process.
Right. Everybody and you can't skip. You cannot skip steps. You have to go through that process. You look at. I mean, look at Jesus again. You know what I mean? When if anybody that could have not needed to get baptized by John, by another human being, a flawed, sinful human being, Jesus could have been like, no, I'm good. But even Jesus submitted himself under that, and John was like, man, no, you should be baptized in me. And Jesus was like, no, this is how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to submit under authority, I think every man, and woman, but every man especially has to learn how to do that. Because when you learn how to submit under authority, you develop skills, you develop humility, you develop mindsets, perspective of the process, which essentially, like you said, is going to make you a great leader in the long run. But if you never do that and you skip steps, when you are that leader, man, you're going to be leaving your family, your friends, your company into a ditch. You know what I mean? Because you didn't go through the right process in order to, lead them in the right
And
direction.
yes, sir, it's really going to be hard to sustain when you get what you want and you ain't submit.
Absolutely. Yes,
If you get what you want and you ain't really submit, you ain't going to know how to keep it.
Right.
Let's say if you get everything that you want and then it all gets taken away. If you never submit, how you going to get it right back?
Right. You ain't going to know how to act.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
That's why I love process.
Exactly.
I love grinding for mine.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
It's just,
Don't hand me nothing.
like-
Let me take it.
Like for me
Let
to
me
go to work,
grind.
and just work all day and knowing I'm earning my income, it's no feeling. Especially for my family, bro. It's like wife and kid, bro. It's nothing better than that.
But you see the product,
Yeah.
and think about it, like you're about to have a son.
Right.
He's going to have to know how to submit because one day, guess what? He's going to be a father and he's going to be a leader of his own family.
Right.
So, like I said, through that process, all of us have had to go through that. My dad passed away, cool, but there was a point where he was here and he would teach me things.
Right.
Your father teaches you things. Your father teaches you things. Your father teaches you things. Even if you don't have your father in your house, there's somebody that you submit to, or that some type of authority, or somebody that you gravitate towards to naturally, or whatever.
Even as a teacher.
Yeah, even if it's a teacher, like a father figure is that's the heart of somebody that wants to give you something.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of an inheritance, and you think of just like wanting to give your son and talk about legacy the other day. If he doesn't know how to handle the legacy, at some point it's going to die out.
Right.
If you teach him the lessons that he needs to know in order for him to sustain that legacy, guess what? It'll go forever, and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So when we talk about just submission, you have to be you have to be very, very comfortable with that process, because I think if you're not, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're cheating yourself out of the blessings that you're really going to get a chance to have if you stay on the course of the process.
What does submission look like for Byron Johnson in your daily life? What does submission look like today for you?
Submission for me at this point is simply, So when we started this accountability thing, right? That was a form of submission for me in itself, because I had to stop leaning on myself, just me, to become the best version of me. I had to get around some brothers that, were going to kind of hold me up, and I had to submit to that process, because, now I feel like if I go down, I let y'all down. You know what I mean? Or I let my family down, or anybody like that. So, first off, just in that process, of course, I did submit, but submitting to God, first of all, is just me getting on my knees and just being thankful for every single thing that I have. And to this point, man, I'm really just counting my blessings, And sometimes, you get in a place where you're frustrated, or, things may not be going your way from what you see in life. But when you take the time to just really submit and just really get under God's authority, man, you get to see all the blessings that you have. Simply things is just walking, talking, being able to be in a sound mind, like, breathing, like all of that type of stuff, man. It's submitting on a daily basis is that, I'm getting ready for a move soon. So it's important knowing that I'm going to have my own spot to honestly, man, listen to my mom a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because it's lessons that I may have skipped over, when I was 18 and didn't really want to listen. Well, now that I'm more mature, I'm looking at it like, okay, well, she's paying for this house and she's doing this. When it's me in that situation, I'm going to want somebody to handle their business like they're supposed to. So submitting to that process, like Darryl said, if there's something that I don't want to do around the house, for the betterment of the family, I'm getting under the mission and I'm pushing the mission of the family up, which is to, sometimes it's stuff as simple as, making sure my mom has a good day, or making sure my sister has a good day, or making sure my grandma gets where she needs to go, because that's positive things for the family that's making everything better. And hence it makes my day better because honestly, they may not have nothing to complain about, or they may not have nothing to fuss about, or, it keeps the peace, you know what I mean? And I'm learning that as a man, that's something that I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because I want my own family one day. I want a wife. I want kids. And I want them to feel that same peace that I get excited that my family feels peace about when I do what, honestly, I'm supposed to do around the house or outside the house or anything like that. And it's very, very important, on a daily basis for me to just stay as close and connected to God as I possibly can in order to become my best self. That's key always, man. Key always. So we'll segue to the next question. All right. Why is it important for men to submit specifically to God? Why is it important for men to submit to God?
We can't lead if we don't allow God to lead through us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
Well, we can, but not just. You ain't
I
gonna be
mean, okay,
leading.
you're right.
Yeah.
You can, but you can lead. But okay, you're right. But
Go how you want.
just from our perspective, you can't lead until you
Right,
allow
right.
God to lead you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, man, lately, like the last, I can't even tell you, maybe like a month or so, maybe even longer, I just been having it heavy in my heart, man, really to just, have that relationship with God, grow my relationship with God, and whether that's, listening to more sermons, whether that's getting into the Word for myself, whether that's just praying more often, whatever it is that I have to do just to better my relationship with God, I'm trying to do right now, simply because, one, I'm a husband, so I can't leave my wife if, I don't allow God. Right. And I can't leave my son, for sure, and to say I got a son coming to this world, bro, y'all, I ain't gonna lie. I'm excited. I ain't gonna lie. I'm excited. I can't lie. But man, it's scary, bro. Because you don't wanna let him down, man. You don't wanna steer him down a path that leads him to destruction, right? So for me personally, man, I gotta get into my word. Because in order for me to teach him the word, I gotta know the word for myself. And in order for me to teach him, you gotta have a relationship with the love for yourself. I gotta have that relationship with love for myself. So I can know, okay, this is how it is. Go to the Lord in this situation, that situation. Not only Lord, but just the Holy Spirit in general. To get that discernment, just from just for like, if I come around people, the Holy Spirit tell me, stay away from that person. Yeah. It's things like that, just like leadership, wisdom, man. All that comes from submitting to God. When you submit to God, He gives you all that. Absolutely. So that's for me. That's just that's my spirit.
Look like y'all want to take it. Go ahead, Chris. Second.
Mentally fight. You
right? Like, look, I felt the tension.
I think. So the question is,
why is it important for men to submit to God?
To God, especially.
Yeah.
I think because as men, God has blessed us with a great ability to lead, to cultivate, to create, to develop people. And I think if we fail to have the perspective and be led by God, we essentially take everything that we could ever touch and we destroy it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So by not being submitted under God, all the gifts and attributes and skills that He's blessed us with, we will essentially throw them by waste and destroy everything. And unfortunately, a lot of times women are the victim of that. You know what I mean?
For sure,
Because
for sure.
if a man's not being led under God, he would essentially take all those gifts and all those great things and can destroy women. And just really destroy women. I mean, I've talked to, I've had conversations with a lot of women, and just the amount of abuse and hurt and pain that a man has caused them is just mind blowing. You know what I mean? It's mind blowing. And a lot of times I see that, the man that was leading them, supposed to have been leading them, wasn't even submitted under God.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's so important because, we're entrusted as leaders. And with that responsibility, we have a duty to not only lead, but to lead, like you said, God's daughter and your family towards God. You know what I mean? Like that's your burden, like you have, and that's why I take it so seriously, even now without having a wife or kids, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my family.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Now.
Right now, exactly.
Now.
Exactly. I'm responsible for my family. If my wife and my kids is a representation of me. If I'm leading and I'm submitted under God and I'm walking this way, subsequently they will walk in that way as well. You know what I mean? But if I'm off, not even present, and I mean present, like physically present, spiritually present, emotionally present, then they can get information from anything. Look at this, Adam and Eve, right? I feel like Adam slipped up more because he failed to lead Eve in a way that she wouldn't even be tempted by the devil. You know what I mean? Because he left her so susceptible to what the devil was whispering, and now it caused, clearly everybody know the fall,
Yeah,
right? So you have to, as a man, you have to lead and be submitted under God. So when you do lead, you can lead in the right direction, and you can, execute everything that God is, giving you to.
Right, I like that. You said women, but kids too, man.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
man, so many people walk around the world today, bro, and they lost, man. Just because, like, us as men, bro, we have a specific position in our kids' life, man. Like, mama's there, cool. Mama's the one there that she gonna nurture you up, she gonna pat you on. Oh, baby, it's gonna be all right, But them dads gotta be there for that,
That's crazy, because I always tell this to Byron.
Right.
We talk about this all the time. Like, the enemy does what first? He takes away the man from the family, right? He that's the first thing he does, whether it's through jail, whether it's through a whole bunch of different things. He takes that away from. Why?
Right.
Because now there's no leadership.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like you said, we say all the time, women can definitely get it done, but it makes it so much more difficult without that man present.
Bro, I look at my own home.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was a big thing. I noticed the effects of the man not being there anymore. Not that my dad didn't want to be there, obviously, but just what it did, it put my mom in a real vulnerable spot. And like you said, women can get it done. Thank God that she was the type of woman who had a relationship with God and took care of herself and maxed out on herself before she ever got with my dad. But at the same time, the home was better when he was there. It just was, and I mean, even for myself, one cool thing that I think happened with me was the fact that God, at the age of 13, not that I was, really wise or anything like that, but just even at a young age, I felt like God really started molding me and making me a leader. And I think that was simply because, that my dad was taken away from the home. So, but my dad, was taken away from the home. So it just put me in a place where I had to become more focused. Y'all know me in high school. Like, I was very, just laser focused on the things that I had to do to go on to, to me it was football, but just it developed a mindset of me just being a leader and the best man that I possibly can be. Earning people's respect was an important thing to me because, just having integrity, doing the things the right way, working hard, being the first one there, last one to leave. Like, all those values were instilled that, God put that in me, but I was willing to submit at that point. And, like you said, with your conversations with women, I've had conversations with women too, and everybody, submission is looked at as something that women are supposed to do, but we never really, like you said with the Adam thing, we never really look at our responsibility with these types of things. You know what I mean? Like, a woman is not going to submit to somebody that's not worth being submitted to. Right. I don't care what you say. Like, it's literally it's not even something that you have to do. You know what I mean? Like, real recognizes real. Like, when somebody walks in a room and they have that presence and they have that aura about them, they prepare, they put themselves in situations to become where they want to be, a woman's going to follow that. I don't care what you say. And it's not necessarily a submission thing for them. Really, I believe it's co-leading, honestly, because, I mean, you know, there's situations where the woman's going to have to lead in a sense, situations where the man's going to have to lead. But at the same time, you know, she's going to get up under that authority because you're up under authority. You know what I mean? So many men look at it as, oh, well, I got money, or I got status, or I got this, or I got that. Are you submitted under God? Because if you're not, I don't care
that don't
what
mean
you,
nothing.
that means nothing.
Right.
And there's so many people who, you know, in society, they look at people as men, you know, that have money, that have status, that have anything like that. I don't respect that, just being honest. It's great, you know, if you taking care of your family and stuff like that, whatever, but is your family really being the best that it possibly can be?
Are they really taking
Are
care
they
of?
really? Exactly. Are they really? Are they really? Money-wise, they're taken care
Right.
of, but is the home stable?
Right.
You know, are the children mentally there? You know, spiritually, are y'all
They
growing?
believe in Christ.
Yes,
Right,
that's it.
yeah.
Simply stuff like that. So I mean,
Right.
you know, it's important to submit under God because at the end of the day, you're literally connected to the source. You know what I mean? You're connected to the source that's going to allow your family to be the very best that they possibly can be, simply because you're getting up under authority for your family.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's key.
And it's crazy that you mentioned that because, like you said, the women, you know, they always like, you know, we know the scripture, Ephesians 5:24, it talks about, you know, wives should submit to their husbands. But in 25, it talks about how you're supposed to, you know, love and give yourself as Jesus did for the church. Give yourself, essentially die for your wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So either you're going to, like, wives has a calling to submit. We have a calling to die for our wife. And that means that's physically, if possible, if necessary, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Like, you have to, like we said in the first part of this, you have to die in order to make that work. You know what I mean? So, like you said, you always hear about the women aspect, but what is our responsibility? Our responsibility is die for that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You
You go there and deep
Yeah, I know, right?
You over there
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you soaking it in, bro.
I'm like, golly.
A lot of stuff going on.
Man, well, I don't know, kind of a different angle, just how, you know, the question was proposed. You said, why is it important for men to submit to God? Personally, as I've been seeing, and I love to study things, I love to see, the only consistent thing on this earth is God.
Facts.
Because if you look at it, everything always evolves outside of that.
Change.
Everything changes.
God don't.
And I feel like if you don't submit to God, we don't have a shot at prolonged joy. So the submission can be an element that we can really dive in and want to commit to, because that'll be our best bet at the longest happiness that we can get. And as we said, the fruit of the Spirit is joy, love, happiness, and all those things. If we don't submit and we have the worldly intentions, we can be happy. We can have joy, but it can be periodic. With submitting to the Lord, it shouldn't matter what we're doing, no matter what stage we're in, whether we're in the process or whether we're the leader or whether there's anything. If we submit it to the Lord, that's going to give us the best chance to have joy. Dewey said he's about to be blessed with a baby boy. In this process, you're serving the Lord, that's bringing you joy. When you see that fruit being bared and he following the same thing, that's still going to give you joy.
Right.
Whether you're rich or whether you're poor, as long as you submit it to the Lord, that's going to give you your best shot at it. Not whether it's like, oh, I got a job and I'm making $100,000 a year and I got laid off the next year. This year I had joy. This year I don't have anything. I'm grateful with it all, Lord.
Right.
For I mean, and that's we're speaking from what we're seeing, and we're also tying in what we've been through. As we go through this thing, we're sharing with you guys day to day, week by week, I guess. Our opinions, it's going to continue to grow and evolve, and I feel like the Lord's going to be able to bless us with more information and more knowledge as we continue to seek Him. So, personally, my submission has come, and what I've been practicing, I've been trying to seek His Word, because the only way we're going to know the importance of submitting is by seeking why it is important to submit. I didn't know that 3 years ago. I didn't know that a year ago. I didn't know as much as I do now on why is it important to submit.
Right.
Because if I would have put all my whole life, bro, I was the first, one of the first. I know I was the first male to graduate college. Them people been praying on that for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I would have found all my joy in that, when I walked across the stage, I would have felt like life was complete.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm in this stage right now. I'm like, Lord, what you have next?
Right.
Because I know that wasn't me.
Absolutely.
That wasn't just me who got through all that.
Right.
A lot of the breaks that I caught and stuff like that, I know there was grandma prayers. I know there was other people, rooting and seeking for this. When I got blessed with a job, man, I'm like, man, bro, I want to do this. Bro, you blessed with a job. He calls us to be change agents in where we're going. The only way we could be change agents, the only way we could go cultivate the culture is if we're being led by him.
Right.
If not, you will look at a job or you will look at whatever you got blessed with as, why am I there?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to get to this and that. So that's really just how I felt about that.
All right, good stuff, man. You saying that it's about perspective. You know what I mean? Because like you said, if your goal is just to graduate college and you're not focused on God, well, once you graduate, what's left? When you focus on God, that's the standard. You know what I mean? So it's always something to improve on because God is everlasting.
Yeah.
He's infinite. You know what I mean? He's forever.
There's a lot
And
of work
he's
to do.
perfect.
Come on.
You know what I mean? So that's your standard. Seriously, like you're striving to that standard. So there's always something more for you to dig into, something for you to grow in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And as men in life, we're conquerors. We like to go after things. We're adventurous. All those naturally that's just who we are. So, when you're seeking God consistently, it just puts you in a place where you're always looking to conquer something else or grow in this aspect. And me and Chris definitely last year, we tried to tackle the accountability thing. And, we got far with it. But this year we wanted to go bigger. You know what I mean? And we wanted to do more. And we wanted to find other areas, and you even look at this podcast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it put us in a place to be able to do more, be more, continue to grow as men and grow in different aspects in our life and touch other people and all these types of things. But if you don't seek that, if you don't seek God as the source and your provider, I think you just look at things and what they are, and that's it.
Right.
But when your eyes are up here, it's never surface, and it's always something that's just going higher and higher and higher. So if you're following it, going higher and higher, guess what you're doing? Going higher and higher and higher. So it's a big deal to submit because you simply are just putting yourself in a position where you're going with God and you're growing with Him, going higher as He goes higher.
And it gives you the best perspective.
Absolutely. Because you're up, you're above everything.
And that's why it's dangerous for. That's why it's not dangerous. It's important for us as men, as believers, as Christians, that's trying to go and spread the great word of the Lord. We got to understand that this is a process of people to know. So if you see somebody making the effort to try it, just build them up.
Right.
You don't need to look at it as a judge and be like, oh, that's not going to last, or this ain't going to last. And if you 20 years old and you die at 100, you got 80 years. You got 80 years. And you could be on top right now. You could go away. You could be on the bottom right now. You could rise to the top. Just praise people's process.
Absolutely.
Just praise the people around you. Build them up. You're going through your own.
Everybody
Like
going
my
through their
brother,
process.
let's go. Everybody, let's go. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I'm talking right now. In real life, I'm just go around talking to people. You know what I mean? So I still got to grow with that too. If I see a stranger, hey, how you doing? I mean, I'm not just going around over talking them, but
Right.
you got to realize, hey, we also got to be better at everything else too.
Right.
All right, fellas. So, last question. All right, before we wrap it up. All right, like Quavo. Overall, overall, how would men learning submission contribute to better relationships and decision making? Overall, how would men learning submission contribute to better relationships and decision making?
I think just like submission, how would it help? I feel like it'll just, once you really, like we've been saying, die to yourself and put yourself second and other people first, you'll start making decisions. Okay, how can I help this person? How can I, let's say that you see somebody over there having a bad day. How can I help that person? My wife come home, she not feeling too good. Whatever. How can I help that person? It'll make you, and naturally stuff like that helps relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go into everything, if I see somebody struggling with anything, and I ask myself, how can I help this person? How can I be a blessing to this person? Then that naturally will help relationships, especially when it comes to marriage, when it comes to your kids, when it comes to friends, when it comes to your parents, relationship with your parents, anything. If you really just sit back and be like, okay, survey the situation. Okay, so how can I be a help in this situation? How can I be a blessing in this situation? And naturally, that will help relationships.
Whoever is the best at submitting. So the question was like, how would submitting help the relationship? Whoever is the best at submitting, I think they're about 100 and 0. Whoever is the best at submitting always gains all the respect, and whoever is the best at submitting has less backlash to deal with. We compare Chick-fil-A to McDonald's. Who's better at submitting to a mission? Chick-fil-A. If we compare Alabama to a team that's going 0-10, who's better at submitting? It's just not all of the qualities and deals like that. When you submit, it's going to be more honorable. So then people can buy into the mission. So in turn, I think that's going to help the relationship. We're football guys. We're all about culture, and it's easy to see when people have broken culture. We've seen the Saints. We've seen in comparison to a team that's 0-16 when Cleveland was going 0-16.
Real talk. We've been through it.
Serious. That's a mission. I know we said earlier why it's a weakness, and Darryl mentioned how it is a strength. Like that submission is going to make people gravitate towards something, and then especially if you can couple that with those intangibles that people are blessed with, those natural gifts that they're blessed with. Oh man, you're dangerous.
I think it allows us to starve the flesh and live by our spirit. When we submit, it allows us to consciously go through life and experiences and opportunities and move through our spirit, right? So the flesh is like the initial feeling that you may feel when you want to like pop off on somebody, or your pride is kind of hurt, or all those evil things essentially is living it and acting through the flesh, right? When you act through the spirit, like you said, it essentially makes relationships better because now you're serving that person. Now you're dying to yourself. You're discarding your pride. You're loving without expecting anything in return. You know what I mean? Like you are, when you're living through the spirit, you are a representation of Christ at your best. You know what I mean? So as the more you submit, just like anything, I always tell the story like we all have two wolves, right? The flesh wolf and the spirit wolf. Then they fight you. Whichever one you feed, that's the one that's going to win. So the more you feed your spirit, doing the right things, speaking, positive things, getting to the word, helping others out, loving other people. The more you get into the spirit, that spirit will start to overpower the flesh, and that's what you would live in. So that's what essentially make relationships, in all relationships, whether it's a client business relationship, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your kids, whether it's your friends, every relationship will then become better because you're now living through the spirit, right?
What I would say is learning that submission, how would it improve everything? It's just waking up to me, and it's the same thing I do with God, but I try to do it, with people also. Having that, how can I help you attitude? You know what I mean? How can I make God? How can I make this the best day for you, my family? How can I make this the best day for you? People I run into. How can I make this the best day for you? I try to carry that attitude with me because, in essence, that's really how you make the world better. You know what I mean? Because you take the attitude of the servant, so you're submitting. You know what I mean? What can I do to make your day better? What can I do to make everything better for you? It's simply that to me. It's really not even a complex, concept, because at the end of the day, how can I take the attitude or, just the body language or anything of someone that wants to serve you, and how can I make your day the best that it possibly can be? I look forward to having a wife one day. That's the attitude that I want to have with this woman. You know what I mean? How can I make your day as tremendous as I possibly can? And I want to have that for you. You guys, I want to have that for every single situation that I'm in, because in essence, that's what makes the world better, and that's what makes it the best that it possibly can be. So, to me, just submission is just taking a server's attitude and just, having the mindset of making everything around you better by just getting up under the mission and making it the best that it possibly can and calling it higher to the highest level that it possibly can be at. So,
And you have to understand, like, this is a little side note, like, if you're never the servant, you will never become a king. Never. If you never go through that, and that's why process is so important. If you never become a servant and learn how to serve, you will be a horrible, horrible king.
and you won't be there long either.
You really won't. You know what I mean? I mean, just look at David, one of the best kings that ever, walked. He had to submit and go through that process too. You know what I mean? And his reign was like a very long time. You know what I mean? So you have to go through that process of being submitted under authority, under family, friend, like whatever, in order to finally get on into that level. You know what I mean?
To your point, man, really, you got read First Samuel, man. You got David, like you said, reigned for a very long time, and then you got Saul, who he was the first one anointed. But eventually he got to that point to where I'm gonna do it myself.
Right.
And then when you get that mindset, you start thinking I'm gonna do it myself. And the Lord's like, you know what? I called you, but if you don't humble yourself, I'm gonna humble you. You don't want the Lord.
I'm gonna take my hand off. That's the scariest thing. That's the scariest thing ever to me. I don't never want God to be like, all right, well, you got it. You got it. Okay. I'm gonna take my hand off. Let's see what you. No. I ain't never got it. Right.
But that's all good stuff.
Guys, always will appreciate you. If you're going through something, which is at some point, all of us will go through things and deals like that. Our best option is going to be to submit to the Lord. I feel like first, the best way to submit to the Lord, find His Word, seek His Word, really live for His Word. You're not going to be perfect at it, but strive to get better at the things that you know you're weak at. And if you're at a point where you're low right now, just reach out. If you have to reach out to some people that you don't know, we're open and willing to stand in the gap for you. When two people come into prayer, it's powerful. And if that's what you need, someone to do that for you, I'm man enough to do it with you, and I'm sure they are as well. So thank you guys for watching, and definitely don't forget, huddle up.